What's up guys, Brad here from Piney Grove, and today we have an exciting video because after months of preparation of building this pole barn pad, we're actually going to build the pole barn today. So shout out to Backwoods Builders in Chipley, Florida. They sponsored today's video. To be clear and full disclosure, we did pay for this building, but they did give us a discount to make this video. We're going to capture this pole barn from start to finish, and they are just doing the initial structure. They're going to put in the poles and the trusses and the roof, and then me and Deb are actually going to do the enclosure. So the first thing the guys are doing, they drilled the 6x6s and they're going to put rebar in it, and the reason they're doing that is so that when it's down in the concrete with the winds we get here in Florida, it won't lift the 6x6s out of the ground. Put you guys on a wide shot here for a second. So what the guys are doing now is getting the front of the pole barn parallel with the back of the mega shed. They've measured from the back of the mega shed over a certain distance on the front end and the back end, and that's created them a reference line, and then from that reference line they'll measure to the front of the pole barn. So here's their reference line right here, and that line is parallel with the back of the pole barn, and then they'll come off of that line to the front of the actual pole barn that we're building. So the guys are setting the lines for the 20x36, and it's starting to take shape a little bit here. All right, so they're marking the holes now where they're going to dig them, and there's going to be a post here, a post at 12 feet, and then we're going to skip a post there, and it's going to be a 24-foot header that goes across there. And what that'll allow is right here you'll have a 12-foot bay with a post, and then over there there'll be a 24-foot bay with no post, so it'll be easier to get equipment in and out. So last time they were here they had one of these Toro machines to dig the holes, and they also have a hoist there in the background. You see the aluminum hoist to put the trusses up, but they said this is a newer machine and it's got more functions. I guess the old one can only lift up and down, and this one can actually articulate like a front end loader. This is so exciting. We're getting ready to dig the first hole for the first post. Now these guys have a good system. I've seen it before. They start the hole, and then the guy with the shovel moves the dirt as they dig it, and that way the dirt doesn't go down in the hole. They're a well-oiled machine. And that's all that dirt we brought in from where our pond was dug. So there's a lot of clay material there. Once we dig the hole, we'll be able to see how good I packed it. I hope we don't get that auger stuck. See the different profiles of dirt. That saves a lot of hand digging with a post hole digger when you can just pull that dirt out like that. So what we got is the 6x6 would go right here, and he's just making the hole a little bit bigger so more concrete can go around the post. Because a pole barn is a fairly simple structure, a lot of people will choose to do it themselves. But I think you're going to see in this video that it's a lot of work, and it requires some specialized equipment, and it also requires a lot of muscle and a lot of manual labor. And to be honest, Deb and I are just getting too old to do this sort of thing. So we're perfectly willing to pay folks like this to come in here and do a professional job. Now that all the holes are dug, he's taken the auger off the dingo and he's switched to the fork so he can pick up these 6x6s and take them over to the holes. It's like he's crowning them to find the straight edge to put on the outside and marking them. All right, first post going in the hole. So we're gonna run 4 posts here. We're gonna run 3 here because there'll be a header. And then in between this span, we're also gonna put posts so that we can run girts to attach our sheet metal to. So I saw this young man running with the bags of concrete, and they're 80-pound bags, and I said, man, does Cecil make you run with it? He said, no, I just like a good workout. That's funny because I don't want to lift them. I sure don't want to run with them. So that's a better way to do it right there. Bring it on the dingo.
Well, if you've watched our videos about this pole barn build, then you know that I was the one that said, I don't think it's big enough. And it's here, and they're putting it up quickly, and they're doing a great job. And I'm going to go on record as saying, I still don't think it's big enough. It's going to be great. It's going to serve its purpose. But I still think it's going to be smaller than what he's going to wish he built. Just saying. We'll see when it all goes up, but I'm holding true to what I said. He'll want it bigger.
Getting the first post plumb, and then once they get it plumb, they're going to put the concrete in the bottom. And if I didn't mention it earlier, we're going to be doing a dry set where they put the concrete in the hole dry and then get all the posts squared up, and then we'll put water in it. It will harden up over time. We're not going to mix the water with the concrete and then pour it in the hole. They got the first corner post plumb, and they're putting in the concrete. We're putting in 6 bags at 80 pounds a piece, and that's 480 pounds of concrete, almost 500 pounds of concrete per pole. So all the posts are in the hole, and what they're doing now is setting up a level, laser level in there, because the front of the building closest to the camera is going to be about 10 foot tall, and then it's going to go down to about 8 foot tall in the back. So they need a reference line, and that's what they're going to set with the laser level. He's going around to all the posts. He's got his little marker coming off the laser level, and then he marks all the posts with a reference line. And from that reference line up is where they'll measure, and then that's how they'll set their truss. And likely we're going to cut off the top of the post. It's much easier to cut off the top of the post than to dig the hole the perfect depth. So now that we have a reference line, I was really interested in how well I had graded this, because I don't have a laser level. So up here, we're 65 inches from the reference line down to the top of my prepared site here. And then back here on this corner, we're 59 inches from here down to the dirt. So that means I'm about 6 inches off, and it's wavering. It's not 6 inches consistent, but I'm about 6 inches off in my grading. But if you go back to my grading videos, you'll see that I said I'm not good at grading. So once the building is built, I might come back in here with some more fill dirt and just kind of feather it off more here on the edges, and also build it up where it's low. But we're ultimately going to have gravel in the bottom of this pole barn, so I might just use gravel to get it level inside. Laying out the trusses here. We'll put the trusses up here and through bolt them, and we'll be high on this side and low on this side. So it's taken us quite a while to build this pad, and we've had several rains, and the rains have washed off a little bit of the dirt that I had up there. But now we'll have a different problem, because that roof is going to shed rain. So everything that would normally be over top of this pad is now going to come here on the back. That shouldn't be a problem. And we're just going to have to see how the water comes on this side and see if we need to do anything with this dirt. But the idea is eventually get this all sloped properly and get grass planted here, and any water will just funnel off the back of the building and go down the hill, because it keeps going down the hill to the right of the camera. He marked it at 66 above the reference point. And now he's going to cut the post off at that mark. 1 down, 6 more to go. Got the 3 through bolts ready for the truss. We have the truss in place. We got the dingo fired up with this custom lift. They're going to take that lift this truss into place, and then bolt it in. In our original pole barn build, we got a lot of comments about this lift. This is a really slick way to put these trusses in place. You'll notice there's no big heavy equipment here, just that dingo, the auger, the forks, the bucket, and this lift. All right, we're going up. See, it's starting to separate, so a section can go higher. Keeps the boys on the ladder nice and safe, so they don't have to hold a bunch of weight on a ladder. Now the weight of the truss is being held on top of the post. All right, that was just a test run. I thought the truss was actually going up. He put the truss up against the holes on the other side so he could mark this side and get the exact angle to cut the post. Now that we've cut the first one, now we have the measurement. I think it's 48 3/8 or something. And now they can cut all the other posts. They don't have to run the truss up with the dingo. They now have the measurement and can just go down the line and cut them all. I've been saving all the cutoffs because that's good blocking material, like to put equipment on so you don't put it on the ground. And it's funny because you spend so much money on a building like this, and all that's exciting, but I'm pretty excited about getting these blocks as well. So the truss is going up. They've got the 3 bolts ready on that side. They got the 3 bolts ready on this side. Got all of the bolts and the holes done on all the posts. So we should be able to go down the line real quick. All right, all 3 bolts are through. Here they come on this side. And just like that, the first truss is in place, and the rest of them will go really quick. They'll just go down the line, lift them up, and do the same thing. Everything they're doing is just first class. He's over there crowning every purlin that's going to go on top here, and that way if they're bowed any, they'll be bowed to the top. Sometimes builders just don't think of those little things, like the way that they found the clean edge on the 6x6s, and also crowning the 2x6s. Just not every builder is going to do that. See, the through bolts are embedded in the 6x6, so they're not going anywhere. But what I've seen some people do is put a metal strap over top of the 6x6 in the opposite direction, because they say that maybe the 3 bolts in a row will weaken the 6x6, and if you get a lot of uplifting force on the roof, it could pull that through. I think it'd be quite a bit of force to pull those 3 bolts through the wood of the 6x6, but I have seen people put that strap over top just for that extra insurance. We got a lot of building videos out there on pole barns and barns, and also some short videos. And one of the common comments that we get is, you guys are using, 1980s, 1970s style building by putting the post right in the ground. But I think what people need to keep in mind is different regions of the country build differently. And for the most part, you don't put a post in the ground, let's say in the Midwest or someplace where it gets really cold, is because you'll get buckling and heaving as the land freezes and thaws. This is North Florida, and the ground just doesn't freeze very deep. The coldest it's got in the last 2 years has been 17 degrees, but by midday it was 50 or 60 degrees. And another thing is, people are saying those posts will rot out in a couple years. And I built some privacy fences. After a hurricane, the privacy fence got broken off, and I've actually went and dug out the piece that was underground about 2.5 feet, just a standard treated 4x4 from Lowe's or Home Depot. And it had been in the ground, because I built it 20 years ago. It had been in the ground 20 years, and when I pulled it out of the ground, it was no rot, perfectly intact, and just as strong as the day I put it in. And I think a lot of that is due to your soil composition. Up here we have good draining soil on this pad. We're not only elevated, and I put in this dirt, but also underneath we have a lot of sand type of material, and water just percolates down through there. That's why we have a septic system that's underground and not above ground, because our soil is just very porous. It has a lot of cracks and crevices, and water won't collect in these holes and rot out those posts. But leave a comment down below if you've built a pole barn and it's, the post rotted away. Put that information down below, and that'll help our viewers, make decisions on how they should build their pole barn. I think ideally you want the concrete pillars in the ground with the 2 metal pieces that hold up to attach your 6x6 to. But that's going to increase cost, and like I explained earlier, that's not needed in our area. So now they're installing the header, and this header is 24 foot long, and what that allows is we can skip a post there in the center. So this header will go from this post to that post, and then in the center of that header we'll bolt the truss that goes to the back post. And what that allows is just a lot of room in here that I can maneuver with my tractor and other equipment and not have a post to go around. So these trusses, they could manhandle, but they don't. They've got that nice lift back there. But that header is gonna be more metal. It's longer, of course. So they're being real careful not to have anyone under it, to include me.
So the trusses are up, it looks amazing. They're doing a great job. But I'm still holding to what I told him to begin with, that I don't think he's built it big enough. Knowing what he's gonna put in this space, he's gonna fill it up in no time, and we're gonna have him back again building another equipment shed or extending. That's what I think.
All right, the first purlin is going up. Actually, that's probably, well, it's a purlin, but it's also the front face board across the front. So you get a little bit of overhang off the front, past the post. We got all the purlins on. We got it all squared up. You can see the straps that are pulling it square, and also the 2x6s at an angle holding it square. And the first piece of metal going up. Second piece of tin going up. We got a string line right here to show that where the tin stops. When you're doing it yourself, that would be the hard part. Well, it's all hard, I guess, but getting that long piece of tin up there, even with 2 men, it would be really difficult. And of course, tin is sharp. It's good to have a good, hardworking, coordinated crew like this to do it. So I just had lunch with Miss Piney Grove, and she said, "What do you think?" And I go, "Well, it's not smaller than I thought. It's just, it's 20 by 36, so it's not a really, really big building. But I do think it's going to be adequate for what we need it to do. And as it starts to take shape and the tin goes up, and you can see that this area will be shaded, it's just going to be a real nice space for the equipment that we have planned here. I talked to James out at Backwoods Builders a few minutes ago, and he was checking on me, seeing how things were going. And I actually asked for a little configuration change when the guys were here on site, and he was just checking to make sure that everything was going as planned. And it's just the type of service that I've become accustomed to with the company, not just because I'm doing a video for them, but even on the first building, they were very responsive as well. And we weren't doing a video for them on the first one. It was just the first building we were building on Piney Grove, and we documented it. So again, if you're anywhere from Pensacola, Florida to Tallahassee, Florida, northern Florida area, and also lower Alabama, lower Georgia, check in with them. They've got great prices. They got great customer service. And also he said he shipped a pole barn to the Bahamas. So if you're outside of that region I just described, maybe he can ship a pole barn to you. So you see old Deb over there, she just gave me the "it's little" sign. She's running Bella. Bella's there in the background. What are you saying, it's so little? She said, man, I am great at estimating and that it's the perfect size building. Can you see her back there? She's shaking her head no. That's what it looks like from the front.
It looks really, really good, and I can't believe how fast they're putting this up. I mean, they got here late, not late this morning, but not super early, and it's just after lunchtime, and they're probably 90% done. So once this is up, we're putting the siding on. So pray, 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 pray for me. That's what I have to say. Actually, watching them do this so quickly, it's going to be interesting to see how fast it takes us to put it up. We won't be nearly as fast or efficient, but maybe it'll be quicker than what I think.
It doesn't look like a big deal to enclose this, but it probably will turn out to be a bigger deal than I think, but that'll be in a separate video. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna put a post here in the center and also a post over on the other side in the center. And that post will allow us to run our girts on both sides and also on the back. And the girts are what you'll fasten the vertical tin to. So the vertical tin is going to be dark hunter green. Idea is, because it's green back here, that maybe it'll kind of blend in with the background better. So I've watched some pole barn builds on YouTube, and some people put their screw on top of the ridge, and other people put their screw in the flat. So all these screws are in the flat and not in the top of the ridge. You would think that if you put the screw on top of the ridge, it would be less likely to leak, but that's not the way that all the buildings out here are built. They overlapped it right there just like they did here. Whenever you plan a building, you never know exactly what it's going to look like, but I think it's a good place for it, and it's going to look really good once we get more of this limestone gravel and ease that transition going in and out of the pole barn. We cut all the tails off of the purlins, and now we're putting up the trim board before we put the last piece of tin up. We're getting close to the end. Once they put the last piece of tin up, then they got 2 posts to put in at the end for our girts, and then they're done. Then they're done with our building and done for the day. Last roof panel is getting the last screws in it, and we're coming around to drill the holes for the 2 posts on the end. Getting closer and closer to being done. And that's good news, bad news. Good news is the pole barn roof will be done. The bad news is the work begins for me and Deb. So on this end of the pole barn, we didn't have to put a lot of fill dirt because it's the high end, and that's the actual soil that's underneath. You see it's real sandy, so we'll have good drainage underneath all of our posts. I was talking to Cecil about posts and how to keep them from rotting, and he said that they have this coating. It's kind of like a tar paper that they wrap and they heat shrink it, and the tar kind of melts and goes into the post, and that's supposed to like guarantee the post will last like 30 years. I have faith that this pole barn is going to last literally a lifetime for us, but that would be nice to have that protection. So that's something that I would keep in mind if I was building a pole barn, is to maybe pay a little bit extra and wrap the poles with that tar material. Now that soil is a lot more clay, because this is where we build it up 3 feet on this end. You can see the profile down there, the different clays as we put it in here and packed it. At the very bottom, he got to the sand, which is actually the base layer underneath all the fill dirt we brought in. Now we're filling all the post holes with water. That water will seep down into that dry concrete. It'll all tighten up. You don't have to put water on top. You could just let the water from the ground seep into the concrete, but this will let that happen, and also water comes in from the top, and it'll just make the process a little quicker. We got the first gable end post going in. They notched the top, and that'll be beneficial for me and Deb later when we are walling the side of this in, because now we'll have a nailer up there to attach our girts to. So that is the last pole. They're notching that out for me so it's a good flush fit up there. So that's the end result. We got some screws through the trusses into this post here. That furs this out here so that it matches over here, and that way we can just run our blocking and our girts and then put the sheet metal right on top of the girts. All right guys, it's done. Cecil and his crew just left, and we were checking when we recorded the first video, and we were right at 6, maybe 6.5 hours to go from bare dirt to a finished 20 by 36 pole barn. The guys did a really good job. They cleaned up after themselves, and they were actually going to shovel these little mounds of dirt and spread it out. And I said, don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. I've got a tractor and I got to get in there and push some dirt around. But I put the Summit tractor in there to get a feel for the space. So this is the first open bay, 24 feet from the post closest to you to this post over here. And then the Summit is sitting in the 12-foot bay, and there's still plenty of room to put things next to the Summit. But I feel like it's a really good space based on the amount of equipment that we need to put in here. I think it's gonna work out great. But Miss Piney Grove, why don't you come in and give your final verdict on this, because she's been here all day watching it get built, and I don't think her opinion has changed.
It's nice. It is nice. I like the way a pole barn looks. I really do. I like the metal and the wood and the natural. It's a good size. You put the Summit in here, I think thinking that I was gonna go, oh my gosh, this is huge. No, it's not. It's a really good size, and he's gonna be able to fit everything in here that he wants to fit in here. I don't doubt that. But I still go back to, if he's gonna put a shelf here, look, it doesn't leave that much space, although the shelf does compound the space. So it's great. They did a wonderful job. He's gonna be able to squirrel a lot of stuff in here. But I still think at some point in time, he's gonna wish it was a little bit bigger. But that's what we got for today. We have an equipment shed to store what we've been wanting to do and what we've been working on for what seems like forever. So stay tuned, because next up, Brad and I will be enclosing this, and I'm sure there'll be lots of little moments you won't want to miss. And again, I'll just say, pray for me as we go through that process. But check out Backwoods Builders. They're wonderful. They build all over. They build in areas that maybe would surprise you, so check them out. Stay tuned for our upcoming builds. Be kind, tractor hard, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Did she eye roll on the tractor hard? Take care, guys.